Welcome to the E-Show with Neil Ravin. Founded in 2013, the EHL has become the college placement leader on the East Coast. Sit back and learn more about the next step in your junior hockey career.
Welcome to the E-Show, presented by the Penalty Box Foundation. The Foundation's mission centers around their daily motto, "We take care of our own," as they help out all of those within the hockey community who've experienced a catastrophic event. Learn more at penaltyboxfoundation.org. What's up? My name is Neil Ravin, and this is episode number 94 of the E-Show. On this week's episode, we kick things off with the weekly rundown, which recaps this past weekend at the Walpole Showcase. Following a small handful of changes made to the EHL and EHLP power rankings, the Ecru resets our fantasy lineups for the next 2 weeks. Wrapping things up, we discuss this weekend's All-Star games against Curry College and UMass Boston. What's up, guys? Can you believe we already have 2 showcases checked off already?
Good morning, crew.
They happened so fast.
So fast.
Yeah, seriously. This one felt even faster because we had, half the games pretty much almost?
28 compared to 44. So, honestly, just the one less day. You know what I mean? Like being in Worcester for 4 days and being in Walpole for, you could say 3, but really 2.5. Like 1.5.
Monday was a shorty.
Fewer days. Yeah. So
Monday was a quick penalty kill, an abbreviated penalty kill.
But it's funny, we go through a whole season without showcases last year, and then 2 go by in the blink of an eye, and we're already at All-Star week. Like, it just doesn't make any sense how time flies by, right?
Yeah, it really doesn't. Especially when you see all the coaches now posting like, "Hey, here's our record at the All-Star break," and I'm like, "What?" Because we're not quite at that halfway mark of the season. Playing 46 games this season, fingers crossed. Most teams have played 12 or so, 13 games around there.
But it's funny.
Approaching.
It's funny you mentioned that tweet because I want to get into that. One of them does it, and then the dominoes just start to fall. It's like, well, they did it, so I have to do it. And they all just copy each other.
You're talking about one Rich DiCaprio?
I'm just saying, as the league in general, once one team posts what the record is the All-Star break, they all follow.
They got flex, baby.
So with that, let's jump into the weekly rundown.
It's time for the E-Crew's Weekly Rundown.
The E-Show Weekly Rundown is brought to you by the Junior Hockey Podcast, your home for junior hockey news, knowledge, and nonsense. Check them out at tjhpodcast.com.
Speaking of Rich, Jeff, we don't really care about the power rankings, but are the 87s and Avalanche back in the power rankings? You just said you don't care. Just said you don't care a second ago. Well, we're the all-star coaching staff, so we should all be the top 5. No, that's not how it works. We're going to go to the podcast. We're going to talk about it. We're going to figure out what took place. Obviously, the Rangers, since we recorded last, won both games at the showcase, and honestly did so in a way that wasn't as Rangers like last year. So in that Team Maryland game, Nathan Mueller had to make 35 saves in that shutout.
Miller.
Excuse you, sir.
Confirmed that this week. He is one of 3 Millers on BJR, and they're all spelled differently.
One of them is spelled the way that you think the Miller should be spelled.
Yes.
Too.
Tomas Mueller. I actually said that in my game. I was like, Nathan Miller to Tomas Mueller up to Tommy Miller.
Okay. It's confirmed now. But what I was saying is, I don't know if there was a game when Miller in goal, the one that's in goal, had to make 30 plus saves like that last year. They were so stout defensively that he didn't have to do that, but then shows that he can do that. And he's got back-to-back shutouts. He had the Seahawks shutout with 47 saves, the Maryland shutout with 35 saves. I mean, this goalie, when we all look back in a year from now, maybe one of the best goalies in the history of the league.
0.93 goals against, guys.
BJR has not lost when Nathan Miller is in net. Yeah. So that's telling you something.
And
I literally almost fell over when I was reading the stats the other day. It said 0.93 goals against, and save percentages around 970. 97% of the pucks come his way. He's stopping them. That's stupid. And then you have Chris Jackson, who's the number, I put in air quotes, number 2, and Chris thinks he might be better or just as good. Yeah.
Like he's an 0-2 compared to Miller being an 0-1. So Jackson, of course, Rich is in his ear. You can come back again next year. We'll win just as many games. But I think of all the players in our league this year, we don't have any skaters. There's a couple that have been around for a while, but have enough points to really challenge for any all-time records. In terms of goalies, Miller is the only one, and he's now at he had 28 wins combined last season, 5 so far this year. So he's just outside the top 10 for all-time wins. 36 will get him into the top 10. Can he reach Brendan Brawley's 51 when you combined playoffs with regular season? It could be tough. But in terms of shutouts, he's already ranked 4th all-time with 8. Damn. And he still has 3/4 of the season left to go.
Right. And you just wonder if the timeshare will continue or not. I mean, I said to Rich, great problem to have, right? Everybody's looking for goaltending. Not as much this year, though. Like we've talked about on the E Show, there's a lot of teams that are rotating 2 or 3 guys right now. So goaltending is, very plentiful right now in the entire league. And Coach DiCaprio is having fun rotating Jackson, Miller, Jackson. Why not? I mean, it keeps everybody fresh right down the season. And going into the playoffs, you'll have 2 fresh goaltenders, and that's what you want. And you always got to wonder when an injury may come about or what may happen. So we'll see.
I'll give you credit, Jeff, because you were the one that kind of changed all of our opinions to put the Rangers at number 1, which is where they stay, because they beat Team Maryland and then they beat the Avalanche 3-2 in a shootout. We do have to point out, of the 5 goals scored in that 3-2 Avalanche game, the Rangers actually scored 4 of them because they scored 1 of themselves. Jeff, that call...
Yikes.
That call was incredible. Even Rich loved it, because Rich comes in the office afterwards and he goes, "You got to hear this." And he plays it over and over and over again. You literally go, "Oh my God, they put it in their own net."
Gagnon. Oh my God, Gagnon just put that in his own net. Jackson came out of the crease. I think that's going to go to Hotchkiss. But Gagnon was trying to come around the net. Jackson came out to play it as well. We have a 2-2 game, 8:14 to go.
Short and sweet. Sorry to Garrison Gagnon. It happens, right? I said that right after I said that, because it was one of those plays where you're just like I said, oh my God, like you don't expect it to happen. It was kind of a communication breakdown. Jackson was coming out and Gagnon was trying to stick handle, and they were just kind of like caught in between. And then Gagnon just kind of shuffleboarded it into the net. But it's all right. The thing that I like to see was all the Rangers came back to Jackson, gave him the tap on the helmet. Everyone went over Garrison, said, let's shake it off. Let's move on. It happens. It's one of the only major sports where the surface is a huge factor. The boards, the plexi, the ice, it just happens sometimes. Even in the pros, we see it all the time. Some of those tumbling muffins go in from 150 feet away. It happens.
So
oh no, keep going.
You go, Anthony. I was just gonna say, so we have the Rangers locked in at 1. Where to go from there, I have no idea.
The 87s have to come back, and for both teams too. I warned you in the showcase, Neil, that I was gonna come in guns blazing after the 87s between both teams on a combined 4-0-1, and the EHL team, by the way, taking out number 3 Walpole.
Yep.
With a 5-1 victory.
87's probably a team that has to come back in. Wizards split their games with the showcase. They got shut up by the Avalanche, but they beat the Apple Core. The Railers won both of their games by the score of 4-1. You know that I love my symmetry, Jeff. Nice clean weekend, 4-1 over the Ducks and the Rough Riders. I still have no idea who the Seacoast Spartans are. It just doesn't.
They don't either.
They collected 1 point out of 6 at the Worcester Showcase, and now they've won 4 straight games since then. And they're scoring. They're averaging over 5 goals a game.
They screwed up. I mentioned that they screwed up the symmetry the other day, Neil, when they had they were going to go for 4 straight games. I was getting, so you've really got me on this symmetry numbers thing now. During broadcast, I'm like, ooh, and I just churn them all out. They were going to go with 4 straight games of almost exactly the same 5-2, 5-3, 5-2, 5-2. Then they scored an empty netter and it made it, I think 6-3 was the final. So it's screwing everything up, but they're a late period. They're a late game team. They keep coming back. I was saying that they used the second showcase half this past weekend as their third period. And that's what they did against the Valley Junior Warriors and the East Coast Wizards last week. Was they were down for more than half the game, and then the third period they just blew doors and came back and caught both teams by surprise.
And it's just so crazy because it feels like every time we reset the power rankings from week to week, we can make a bunch of changes, right?
Yeah.
Like and we mentioned all of those teams, and we've talked a lot about the East Division. Look at the East Division right now. You got 3 teams that are on a losing streak of 3 games or more. Like the ups and downs that we're seeing at the EHL this year, it's just hard to keep track because you don't really know who's who yet. And it's making it exciting though, because you never know who's going to win on a certain day. Even a team like the Rough Riders, right? They've won 2 of their last 3.
Yeah, they look a lot better.
That's a team that's starting to get hot here right now, and they have a matchup with the 87s coming up. I'm sure they have that one circled on their calendar. So I think we like I said before, we're locked in at number 1. We know that, but where
do we go from here?
Where do we go from there?
I think the South is our teams to keep an eye on, because I interviewed quite a few teams from players from the South teams this showcase, and I asked a few of them. I was like, everyone says the East is a powerhouse, but I was like, why is the South making a name for themselves now? Like, what's working for you guys? Because there's quite a few of them. Like, yeah, they have their moments where they struggle, but the South is coming back, so I wouldn't forget about them.
Thank you, Lauren.
Does that mean you're putting a vote in, Lauren, for any team in particular?
Maybe.
Well, it's a matter of pick 4, right? Here are the teams that could be in spots 2 through 5. Avalanche, Spartans, Wizards, Railers, Maryland 87s, Little Flyers. I think, unfortunately for Walpole, losing both knocks them out. That was one of the names I didn't say there, right? Yeah. It's funny how you can win all 3 at the first showcase and then lose 2 at your home showcase, right? On your home ice too. And they even had the NHL side, right? Because they don't want to play on the Olympic side. It's crazy how it goes back and forth. Mm-hmm. I think at number 2 right now, it has to be the Railers.
I was about to be very mad if you didn't say that. That has to happen.
Why do you say that?
Okay with that.
Because they're looking really good. Like, if you look at their record, they're a team to beat right now. BJR is obviously because they're running away with their division, whatever. But the Railers are definitely a team to watch out for.
I agree with Lauren. It's a good balance with Worcester right now. Scoring a lot of goals, not giving up. Another team with 2 goalies. Yeah.
They're one of, I think, 3 or 4 teams. I was talking about this on my last recap of the weekend, and I think they were one of 3 or 4 teams where literally the only team for their organization that had a loss the whole weekend was a P team. There's 3 or 4 teams and all they had was a P team lost. So there's a couple teams that are looking pretty solid.
Another team with Kalanick and Maluski. I was a little upset when I saw Maluski tonight, but he played very well. But Stefan did get me 1 win.
Anthony's shaking his head because he doesn't want the Railers in number 2.
Oh, Anthony,
I'm not convinced considering their strength of schedule in the showcase.
Okay. Oh God.
I understand.
It's a democracy here on the show.
I do understand strength of schedule, but I also point at 2 losses by the scores of 3-2 each time. I know it's easy to say now, but they're nearly undefeated. And they lost to Walpole once 3-2, and they lost to the Seahawks once 3-2. I see your point. Sometimes strength of schedule, maybe they haven't played the toughest teams, but they do have a win against the Rangers this season.
Even their P team is good. It's just, you can't.
But that was also the first game of the season, Neil. When we do the power rankings, don't we also consider what teams did this week?
Yes.
What have you done for me lately?
We do consider what they did this week, and I don't know. I see your point that they beat a couple teams that are currently in last place, but I think I'm being selfish again, and I'm setting up October 26th, number 1 Rangers versus number 2 Railers. I think that's
always want the ratings, Neil.
That's how we get eyeballs, Anthony. That's how we get the eyeballs. Coming out of the All-Star break, number 1 versus number 2. I think, and you know who's going to be so fired up for that are the Rangers because of what you just said. That first game of the season, dropping that game, you know who's going to be in net. Miller's going to be in net for that.
Do you?
Oh, he's got to be.
0.93. I mean, yeah, I would hope so.
The second a loss happens for the Rangers, they circle the next one on the calendar.
Yeah,
because
if you look at their record too, they haven't lost more than one in a row. Their first couple games, it's literally 2 wins, a loss, 2 wins, a loss.
The other thing I love too is Rich kept coming in.
They have not won more than once in a row.
Rich has told us he's not played well in those last 2 3-0 wins too.
I hate that. I hate that.
Poorly in a 3-0
we won 3-0, but we didn't play well. Okay, whatever. I'll talk to you later.
Their power play does need some work. They got a chance in overtime the other day, and I thought it was pretty interesting. I said that to Rich. It was like the one part of your team that you said was weak had a moment late in the game in overtime to win it, and they couldn't do anything with it. So they got to figure that out. But
if Anthony, you're obviously getting outnumbered a little bit here. I've apologized for that. But if you don't have the Railers at number 2, who do you have there? Because maybe we have a consensus on who that is for number 3.
I don't know. I mean, I still like
87.
I still like Team Maryland. I still like the 87s because the 87s offense is heating up. I think that's a team that's really getting it together, and they're starting to look not completely, but a little bit like last year's team, only with better defense and goaltending. So I think the 87s, I know I'm a little biased, but they're a team that is strong on all ends of the ice, especially with the offense coming together. So I think that they're making a case to go back to the top of the power rankings.
And if you want to go to Anthony's point, playing devil's advocate, they've beaten some good teams. You gave up only 2 goals to the Lumberjacks. You beat the Express up pretty good, 5-1. You've won 5 of your last 6. Beat the split with the Apple Corps, beat the Seahawks.
I'll put them at number 3.
Yeah, I would say 3 is a nice spot.
We'll keep
Team Maryland's the only other team with double-digit wins, by the way, 10-3.
So the question then is, I think we can agree that Maryland bounced back from their loss to the Rangers and had a win against the Wolves. So Maryland stays in, and
where do they go?
Well, they play the 87s on Sunday. So there's your 3 versus 4, but is it 87s Maryland or Maryland 87s? Who do we want to add?
3.
Who do we? Well, no, 3, 4.
4.
Who do we want to add a little bit more fire in their locker room for? The home team 87s or the road team Team Maryland?
First put a lot of fire in that gas tank of the 87s last week.
You know what, Neil? Last week when I was talking about the 87s, and you told me in the showcase that I fired them up, where I said that I didn't want to pick any guys on the 87s. So you know what? Go ahead, put Maryland at number 4, and let's at number 3, put the 87s at 4, and let's maybe light another fire in them, see what they do against Team Maryland.
I agree with that because it also Maryland still is the first place team, right?
And plus they added Farrell Din recently before their last matchup, before the first time that after their last matchup, I should say, where they lost to the 87s Team Maryland, and then they added Farrell Din, who has really put their offense over the top. Like they were an offense that was already good, and then they added Din to the mix. So Maryland, just like the 87s, they're a sea wagon right now, and they're a team to beat.
So
see, I disagree with this. I kind of like the look of the 87s more than Maryland. I think Maryland is not a team to discount because I think they are on the come up, but I think the 87s are looking a little better than them so far.
Okay, I agree with Lauren as well. Actually,
all right,
I just called Team Maryland game the other day, and they were that was it was a 5-2 final between the Wolves, but that came down to the final minutes when Maryland started to. Or the final half of that second showcase half is when they
I think they're still struggling to find the consistency
Jefferson,
a little bit.
You bring up a good point, Jefferson. I was watching that game on Hockey TV,
right?
And the Wolves looked pretty good in that first half. They were really taking it to Team Maryland. I think that Maryland just sort of outweighed or outlasted New England, where I think for the Wolves, the wheels kind of fell off a little early, but I also think that's more of a compliment to the Wolves, where it looks like they're, getting it together, building up some momentum. They have some good players on that team.
Yeah, Yelensky's looks good. Bernier got his first goal as a Wolf the other day. He looks good. Arpin was out of the lineup. He's another player to watch out for. He's pretty good. I've seen him in years past for a previous junior team. And they're figuring things out scoring. I think their issue for the Wolves right now is goaltending. I mean, Holbrook looked better the other day, but then, towards the second half of that second half, he didn't look as good. But was that Team Maryland? Was that him?
I think Maryland looks pretty good, but I think they need to like work on the consistency bit before we can really say they're like higher than we're putting them.
Anthony, you're holding strong on 3 Maryland 487s.
Nah, put the 87s at 3. You kidding me?
Okay, so three
Love it.
3 are the 87s. 4 is Team Maryland, and 5 I have to put the Avalanche, because I did say to you guys last week before we got on this pod, or before the week began, that the Avalanche, if they went 4-0-0, they would have to come in. They went 3-0-1 after they beat Valley in a shootout, shut out the Wizards, shut out the Ducks, and then nearly beat the Rangers. But that game went to a shootout. So I think the Avalanche have to go to 5. And I think for receiving votes, we have to give it to Seacoast.
Yeah, that's fine. And actually,
No love for the Flyers.
Oh,
yeah, I would say at least add in the Little Flyers too. They had some good wins at that showcase, so I think they deserve to get on there.
Okay,
our receiving votes area is getting crowded this week for this. That's
So,
a good thing. Like we said,
I think even when they take losses, I think they still look pretty good. I think there's just like a few small things. Yeah, I think like there's just a few small things that if they work on them, they are just going to run away with it.
And they're battle tested. We said that. I know I said that on the broadcast. They're a team that's always, you're usually, not always, I guess you could say, but in their history, a playoff team. And Mark Catron's still there, and he's got a lot of veteran presence behind the bench. And Alo's been around for a long time, the president of the Little Flyers versus everybody. And I'd say they're a dangerous team to watch out for. And the impressive thing about the Avs too, Paremba got one of those shutouts the other day. Mobley was in street clothes hanging out with Beanie hanging in the stands.
Yeah, nice little chat with him. He's a cool dude.
But that just again goes to show you they got another goalie that they can throw in there, give your starter a day off, and that's impressive. Anthony?
The other thing about the Little Flyers is that they got back one of their veterans, Adam Bove. Now, I messed up on the broadcast. I thought Mark Catron told me that he came from the Danbury Hat Tricks 18U team. And when I said that on air, the players were getting a real good laugh about it because Danbury does not have an 18U team. No, he was with their Null team, and he came back. But Bove was great for the Little Flyers last year, and he's back to finish his junior career with the Little Flyers. So I think that it makes a good team that much better.
Yeah, he scored a nice goal the other day, too.
Best division in the EHL right now.
East.
I think
I'd say
South is
South.
on the come up.
I'll just be contrarian and say North because it was last year. Moving on to the...
please.
It's not anymore, dude.
No.
Not anymore.
We want your actual opinion.
Get with the times, old man.
I don't have an opinion yet. Soon.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that.
It's not
in a week, I will give my opinion with my Frozen Finals predictions, and I'll give you guys. Yes, I'll give you guys a week after that to start thinking about it.
All right.
So let's move on to the EHLP, and Lauren started to mention this team earlier, and that's the Railers Junior Hockey Club, who did give up a goal finally at the showcase. That streak ended. That no goals allowed streak after I think it was 3 shutouts ended against the Rangers on Saturday, but they still won that game 7-2. And if it wasn't for Ronan Marley for the Little Flyers P team, who was just named goalie of the week, they would have won that game as well. But he made 37 saves for Philadelphia. So I think despite going 1-1, I still think the Railers are the number 1 ranked team in the EHLP.
Ronan Marley, not to be confused with Ronan Mobley.
Right.
How weird is that? When you said that, I was like, who? What?
We got that. We got 3 BJR Millers. It's the whole thing.
Yeah, the Railers also had a phenomenal game against the Boston Junior Rangers. I was on the call for that one. And the Railers coming in, they were struggling on the power play. I think they had 2 goals so far that season. And they scored 4 times on the power play. Their special teams were just insane. They were scoring left and right. I was talking to Rich DiCaprio, and he said special teams and goaltending is something that the P team needs to work on a little bit. But I think the Railers are just that good.
So
I almost wish we had Trevor here for this, because although he's a bit biased, he would have like the best argument for them because they're pretty nasty.
Yeah. Seahawks look pretty good too in their inaugural season in the P.
I agree. I don't think that they're at number 1 just yet. I think the Railers still have that spot because if it wasn't for the Hawk goaltender in that one game,
they're undefeated.
They're undefeated. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I would agree. Just throwing a little more kindling in the fire. That's all.
So moving on to number 2, then, like Jeff, you just started to mention this team. It's kind of funny how the game counts work out at this point of the year because we all are in agreement that the Railers are the top team right now. But once they play the same game counts as everyone else, they'll actually be in first place. The Seahawks are currently the first place team, which I do have to pause for a funny story. Because
story time.
Seeing Bill Zanaboni is always like one of my favorite moments, right?
Same.
So
Agreed.
He comes in for clarification with Mike Richard, who's their P coach, about how the playoffs work. And I mentioned, guys, like it's on the website, everyone makes the playoffs. And Bill, without hesitation, is like, you made the playoffs, and just high fives Mike. It was like a huge moment. And he's like, your first year, you're going in. And it was like, you made the playoffs a month ago. Like
it's a bonus for everybody. 12 games into the season.
It was awesome. But honestly, as you were saying, Jeff, like, if they had come out in their first year at the P level and maybe struggled a little bit, I don't think anyone would have been surprised, right?
Expected from expansion. Expansion usually means, unlike the Vegas Golden Knights in the NHL, expansion usually means struggles.
Yeah.
Because you're starting from the bottom.
But they've come on, they've won 8 of their first 12 games. Right when we recorded the podcast last week, they had just lost in overtime to the Rangers, but they bounced back with a couple wins at the Showcase. Speaking of story time, when they beat the Renegades on Saturday night, I don't know if we in this league have ever seen an EHL team so fired up during an EHLP game. Like, that place was rocking. Like,
the Seahawks EHL team was killing
it. Was that the game with the Dennehy goal?
Yes, the 2 first goals.
That was amazing. That was so fun to talk to him. That kid got moved up from defense to offense, scores his first goal, and it was an absolute beauty, and they just absolutely lost it. Everyone was freaking out for him. It was great.
Ooh, give Brent Burns activation there.
Gotta give Walpole's rank credit. Those boards, the glass, they were rocking back and forth. And I was like, those could snap at any moment, but they held tight. And
Beautiful.
Dennehy.
Thank you, Rod.
Dennehy,
strong.
it's interesting. The Seahawks are doing this really weird thing over the years where they're bringing in the brothers of former players. They've had now 3 different Purdue brothers. They've had 2 different Dennehy brothers. So clearly the families are like, you know what? It's your time. You're going to the Cape. Just go out there. Which in
beautiful place. It's a little cold in the winter.
Yes. In September, great. In December, maybe not so much. But it was when they scored their first goals, there was an eruption. And I was like, what just happened? Because I was like, I thought that game was like a 3 or 4 goal margin. So it couldn't have been that big of a goal because you didn't tie the game. And it was just the EHL team so excited for those guys and scoring their first goals. I think the Seahawks, without a doubt, have to be in these rankings. I'd be willing to go as high as number 2, have Railers 1, Seahawks 2.
Well, the interesting thing was me and Anthony got to call their second game against the 87s together. That was Bean with the overtime winner. And
that was a filthy goal. That was a great move by Bean.
That was nasty. So actually, that's the cool thing is that me and Anthony have seen them, but we've also seen the 87s too. Another team that we're going to talk about is a power rankings potential. So
because that ruined what would have been a perfect weekend for the 87s. They shut out the Lumberjacks 2-0. They beat Valley. We know how strong of a year Valley is having. And then they lost in overtime to the Seahawks. So I honestly would go Railers 1, Seahawks 2, 87s 3.
Fine with me. I like Coach Connell a lot. Got to meet him for the first time the other day. Seems like a good coach that's been kind of all over the country and has now landed in Jersey Shore Arena with Anthony, Adam, Matt, and the rest of the crew.
I've said it a couple times in different broadcasts. It's not very often that you see a coaching change coming off a championship win, but Connell has been very interested in the 87s for some time, or he's been in contact with the 87 staff even while working at Newman. So I think Adam really felt it was a good idea to bring him on so he could focus more on the EHL side. Matt focused more on the U18s. But yeah, the 87s had a terrific weekend where they beat the Lumberjacks at with an 8 p.m. game, and then the next morning,
I knew this was coming.
Going right into no, really, but like no, they had a very quick turnaround, and not only that, they had to play their second game against the Seahawks just 4 hours later. So I think when you put it into that perspective, and I even said it in the preview to the showcase when I wrote that article, that it was a gauntlet for them. And they came out of it they passed that test with flying colors, 2-0-1. And that second game being a heck of a goaltending duel. Jefferson, come on, we were both on the call for that one.
Oh, yeah.
John Fox was terrific in goal, as well as Liam Chassé. I think it may have been the gold jacket that he had.
Those really glasses too. He had those like white stylish glasses. Yeah, I liked that kid a lot. Chassé and Fox were dynamite for sure.
Who's 4?
Fourth and final spot of the P rankings.
I think this has to be a toss-up between Valley or the Little Flyers, because I feel like some people might see the Little Flyers and be like, not great, but like
I got your stat.
It's the same with I think it's the same with the big team, where they need to get that little last bit of consistency, and they'll run away with it too.
Because Lauren brings up
Valley.
I think so too, and I think the Little Flyers get a receiving vote acknowledgement. Valley 4, Little Flyers receiving vote. And I have a stat for you guys, because I was looking this up when I was writing the Stars of the Week. So the Little Flyers record is 5-5-0.
Yeah.
How many of those wins are outside of showcase play?
1. Are they 4-0 in showcase play?
No, they played more than 4 games. They have zero wins outside of showcase play.
Ooh.
They're 5-2-0 in the showcase.
There's a couple other teams you could say about that too.
Like what? The showcases are more games packed into a shorter window, and for some of these teams, they're playing.
There was a day I think they had 2 games too as well, and I think they won both. So it's like
the day that they, I think it was the day that they beat the Railers, right? So they're playing the toughest team in the league. They're 0-3 outside of showcase play, 5-2-0 in showcase play. That is crazy. They're probably looking at me like, hey, can we have another showcase this weekend?
Yeah, right?
We'll play 4 games.
One-year mission.
So that puts, as we just said, 4. We're going to put the Warriors there, and then receiving votes, just like at the EHL too, PLF. We didn't do that intentionally, though.
We promise, Alo. We promise.
So that recaps the week that was in both divisions. Obviously, for the EHL, there are no games until Sunday, which is the 24th, the day after our All-Star weekend ends. And then things really crank up quite a bit throughout the end of the month. The EHLP, there's a few games Saturday, but kind of the same time frame off. But because of, as I've said to you guys on numerous occasions, the way that our schedule works, for my symmetry, I'd love for us to play on Friday, Saturday, reset, do it all over again the next week. But the way that the schedule works, obviously things get really hectic here up until the end of the month. So our fantasy is going to be a jam-packed, almost like a bonus week, if you will. So let's get to the Ecru Fantasy Challenge and explain that.
It's time for the Ecru Fantasy Challenge.
And the Ecru Fantasy Challenge is presented by BioSteel, the sports drink of the EHL. Use the promo code ESHOW, that's ESHOW, for 25% off when you check out at biosteel.com.
So I was kind of torn how to do this, because when Jeff asked, when is the next fantasy window? Technically, it's supposed to be from the 21st. Oh, and I just lost my calendar. From the 21st to the 27th. But there's not a lot of games from the 21st to the 27th. So if you go from the 21st to the 3rd, it makes sense. But there's a ton of games.
It's like a showcase weekend, basically.
So I strategically should have thought about this and made sure I picked first, because I had to pick last. But because we've seen this trend, picking first helps.
Picking
first does help.
It does.
So let's get to who gets to pick first this week. What? why the grilling, Jeff?
I mean, I have a great week, and then I picked some guys that were hot as you know what, and they were like, "Oh, Jeff picked us this week. Good night." going to sleep.
Will those guys being
wow, Jeff calling out the players like that? I don't know who would do such a thing.
I feel like I got to explain myself because I hate being the vet that's been around here for a while and I'm in last and it sucks. I hate being last. It sucks.
So
Neil, continue.
Let's Will Halecki, Ryan Davies, Nick Webb, they're all having good seasons. They just didn't have a good season during the week that you had them. Kulhanek got you a win. Overall, they got you 10 points. So you are picking first and you are technically in fourth place with 109.4 points. So what are your picks for, what do we even call this? 1.5 weeks of fantasy? A bonus stretch?
For whatever the bonus stretch. This is the showcase-like week before another showcase, basically.
Yes, exactly.
Then the next week we'll have no more showcase picks. So without further ado, I am starting with Anthony's 87s. We're going with their hottest shooter and points getter, Matthew Zedanowicz is going to be my forward. Zedanowicz has been lights out for a team that was trying to figure out their way offensively. Like Anthony said earlier, it seems like they are. He's got 14 points in 12 games. Only 2 games this year that Zedanowicz doesn't have a point. So come on, Matthew. This is what I'm saying. He's got 4 points on the power play. I need you, buddy. Please. I need you. So some of you, I'll tease it. Some of you guys went with some interesting picks, which I like. I had to go with a little more of what I think is a guarantee. So hopefully Zedanowicz is one of the guarantees. The other one is going to be Nick Graziano, who continues to put up buckets of points. He's got 19 and 13 games now, scored against the Wolves on the power play the other day, game I got to call. So he's up to 3 power play goals and a power play assist. Also has the 2 game winners. So it could be some bonus points in there for me. Then I'm going to go back to the well to a guy I liked picking last year, James Mettler. Got him on the fantasy map, I would like to say. And he's got 11 points in 12 games. 5 of those are power play apples. And then I didn't get him last week because Anthony took him from me, but I'm taking him this week. Jack Boschert, come on down to Team Jefferson. I'm hoping for some bonus points. Boschert's got some tough matchups this week. But like Neil did last week with Mobley, I'm going to try to see if I can get some bonus points in there. I think Walpole is hungry to fix this 3-game losing streak. They have games against the Wizards, the Rangers, the Chiefs, and the Spartans in this fantasy stretch. So let's see what the Red Train can do. And that's all I got.
Boschert's getting all the fantasy love.
Yeah, he is. He's good. He is very good.
I mean, this is
to have one bad game, really.
Two fantasy seasons ago
on my team.
Yes. That was a negative 2.2 points for you that day, Anthony. But it's kind of like a little bit of a deja vu, Lauren, because going back 2 years ago, one of the most popular goalie selections was this goalie named Tobias Falkenstadt, and Jeff was if we did it, you know what we should do next offseason, Jeff? I'm literally thinking ahead now. We should do an all-time lineup for each of us, right? And like yours, like Falcon's your goalie. He was your guy. That was like your favorite player of all time.
But then I had Mason last year too. I had Palmer. I love those Walpole goalies, baby. I mentioned that the other day in my Walpole broadcast. It was like they've had Falkenstead, they've had Palmer, now it's Boschert.
Reset, reload.
Reload.
Anthony picked next. He got 8 more points than Jeff this past week. Thanks in large part to the leading scorer in the league, Colin Callanan. Got Anthony a goal and 2 assists. Tyler Anastasi, the defenseman of the week, got Anthony a power play goal. Yes, Jack Boschert's first start wasn't as Anthony had hoped. I don't even know if I could use the word hoped because it was against the 87s. You were really torn about that one. Were you calling that game or no?
No, I was not calling that game.
Okay, that would have been a tough game for you to call. Be like, they score. Oh no, yes. I don't know how to feel. He still got you 2 points though, because of the bounce back effort he had against the Little Flyers. And then Mike DiMascola. I actually like this pick a lot. I think there's a lot of Railers forwards who are underrated. I think we quickly just think about their captain, Matt Pimentel. But there's DiMascola and McGlashing, and there's just Rowe. There's so many guys on that team that can score. But that was your team for last week. What are your next set of picks coming up here?
Okay, so let's go through them. The first pick, I'm going to the offensive powerhouse of Team Maryland, Will Rosen. He's right there under Nick Graziano, has 13 points in as many games, scored a goal against the New England Wolves. So I think he's a player that can keep lighting up the score sheet. For defense, I have Daniel Demchuk. Has 6 points in 10 games at the Valley Junior Warriors. Had a couple of points in the showcase against the Avalanche and the Connecticut Rough Riders. So I think he'll be a solid addition to the blue line. Probably my most daring pick will be in goal, and that's Tristan Fadadad. First off, great kid.
Carry some love.
Yeah, no, he's a great kid. And whenever the ProTech Junior Ducks come into town, he's always the guy I can talk to, ask about how the team's doing, about other players, and will always give me some good quotes before the game. Just a really, really nice kid. But he's been stellar in goal this season, 943 save percentage, 256 goals against. But their schedule is going to be tough. They're going up against Apple Corps. They're going up against Team Maryland twice, so he'll probably have at least one of those games. And then against New Jersey 87's team, as I mentioned before, their offense is heating up. So this is a pick that could either make or break my week, I think, where if he can shut the door on these teams, I'm in for a great week. Or if not, because these are offensive powerhouses they're going up against, then, it might be another scenario with Jack Boschert this week. But
positive energy, positive thoughts, Anthony. Send it to the universe.
Of course. Then my utility pick, well, it's Aiden LaValle. Scored a goal that I was doing color commentary on with Tyler Arago. And also, quick shout out to both him and Jefferson. It was great being color commentator for both of you guys.
What's happening, buddy?
Yeah, the Lumberjacks are down 3-0. They nearly came back, and LaValle scored a goal in a nice redirection. And let's see if he can keep that going and keep up that performance. So he's going to be my utility pick for this week.
Okay. You stole that one from me because when you guys started picking your players, I always open a million tabs on my phone and I was like, LaValle, got it. And I was like, oh, it just got taken. But
always, when you're picking last, you got to do the pick 2 at each spot, Neil, right?
I am picking last, not really because of my skaters. I got 5 points from Michael Tersoni, 3 from Alex Newton, and 2 from Kyle Patton. But Ronan Mobley winning 2 of the 3 starts he made, including that shutout victory against the Wizards. That made a huge difference. I just skipped Lauren there for a second. We kicked over to my team. Lauren's picking next.
Whoa!
I wanted to start pounding my chest there for a second. Well, no, he brought up.
I'll just leave. It's okay.
Lauren will take you down a rung.
He brought up LaValle. I apologize. Okay, you go.
Lauren, I'm going to talk about my players. You talked about everybody else. You're just not going to talk about me now.
Well, you had bonus points also. You got bonus.
I will leave. I will gladly leave because clearly you don't want me here.
I'm eating my words right now. I'm eating my words right now. You had the bonus points first because Aiden Hotchkiss scored the game-winning goal.
Let's go, Hachi.
Against the Wizards. Metro got you a power play assist. Hopkins honestly got the bad end of a bad bounce. That was the Seahawks goalie, and he only got 1 start, but that was the game against the Little Flyers. Did you guys see this game-winning goal?
I was on the call for that.
The puck wrapped the boards and then just pinballed its way right into the slot. You never expect for it to even do that.
Not even to the slot, Neil. That went right into the goal crease. And I joked with people that there were only 2 people that knew where the puck was. Tyler Hassong and me. Because I actually saw that bounce off the corner boards and it just went right to the front and I see Hopkins going out. I'm like, oh no.
So, I mean, but that's
tough.
But ending. Jeff, you and I have talked about this for years of fantasy. One silly bounce like that is the difference between, Lauren losing, a point and a half to gaining 5 more points. Right. Yeah, and that switches the whole thing. And you just can't even expect for the puck to bounce in that direction. Billy Hartnett then was her utility who got 2 assists. So it was another 19.6 points for Lauren. What are your picks this week? Because you actually stole one of mine here as well. That's why I got excited.
Oh, I'm sure. We all did. I'm bringing back 1 familiar face and then a couple of new ones, some of which I think we haven't even picked yet this year. For my forward, bring back Eagan Schmidt, bringing him back to Team Low.
Yeah.
Love this kid. He is a fun one to watch. He got picked for All-Star captain, which I think is the perfect choice. This kid is just absolutely running away with things this season. He's only, I think, 2 points shy of 100 with his team. Like, he is just doing everything right. So I'm excited to have him back, see how he does. And then for my defense, I'm picking from the 87s, showing Anthony's team some love. I am picking Matt Herrick. I think he looks pretty solid. I feel like people haven't really given him enough looks yet. He has 11 points over 12 games, which I think is pretty good. He's a bit of more of an assist guy than goals this team so far, but hey, assists are always good. Got to get the goals in there somehow. And my goal pick, we've talked about him a couple times so far on this episode, Nathan Miller, one of the free BJR Millers. I think he's great. I think he's looking fantastic. I got to interview him after one of his wins, and looking up his stats, BJR doesn't lose when he's in net. So that's exciting for me. So I'm hoping he keeps that up. BJR's been the team to beat for a while from what I've heard, and they're definitely the team to beat this season. So I'm excited to pull him in. And my utility pick, I feel like some of you gave me a little bit of crap for this, but I think he's gonna be a bit of a sleeper pick. Spartans are coming back, I think, and watching him this weekend, he was looking pretty good. I'm picking Logan Derryberry. He's the defense, and everybody was also giving me crap because they're like, "Oh, nobody ever picks defense for utility," but I'm taking a chance on him. I think Spartans are coming back, and I think he's gonna be one of the ones that's key to that.
It is the first time. It is the first time someone has not picked two forwards, right? Because utility can be forward or D. So this is gonna be one of those things where we all laugh, and then he's gonna get a hat trick with 2 assists, and it's like, oh god,
come on, Logan.
And then Lauren's gonna be sitting there going like this emoji.
Yes. Are you not entertained?
Sorry. He is good.
I'll do what Neil likes to say. It's nice to see you guys from the top.
Oh hey.
Okay. Now it's my turn. Here we go. Now it's my turn.
Are you sure it's your turn?
Yes, I apologize for that. I got so excited because we also have to talk about NHL fantasy, Lauren, because I wanted to put this poll out there, and that late goal from Joe Pavelski helped me out. So, but we'll talk about it.
2 points, Neil. 2.
A win is a win. So, as I was starting to say before, Mobley was the big difference for me because he got me 27.6 points. The rest of my guys combined for 10 themselves, but it's amazing. I thought I had a tremendous week and I got 37 points. It still doesn't come close to what Jeff and Anthony did when they each went over 49 points. To even almost hit 50 points, just doesn't even make sense when you guys did that. But
hey, for first to worst, I went. So
yes, as we've pointed out on this podcast, if you are able to pick last consecutive weeks, there should be a separate bonus for that, because it's obviously tougher when you don't get the guys that you had circled from the beginning, which I have a few. I feel confident with this group. I feel like there's some risk here also. Colin Bella scored the game winner for the Rough Riders against the Warriors, a team that I mentioned is starting to turn the corner a little bit. They have a game against the 87s, which another team that has really played well lately. And then they have a home and home or a 2-game series with the Apple Core. Typically when they play, it turns into a shootout. So let's just see if that happens again. I would love that. William White is a player I got to actually meet from the Protect Ducks this past week. It's amazing that when you see them listed at 6'4" on the league website, and then you meet them in person, they feel like they're taller than you actually thought. This kid is a giant. Yeah. He also had skates on, so I was like, this is, as I heard on numerous occasions, I'm not that tall, but this kid was really tall. I was like, this kid is really tall.
Well done.
Now you know how I feel during my interviews. Some of these guys, I'm like, okay, this isn't that bad. And other ones, I feel like I'm hurting my neck. Hey.
I have to find video for you, Lauren, of an interview I did in the 2017 finals of Mac Vale, who was 6'6", and I even made him take his skates off, and he was like, "Do you want me to get that box for you to stand on?" And I was like, "Did you really just say that?" I was wow. I was like, "Oh, that was really just a stab to the heart, caught a little bit."
We got a lot of trees, a lot of cedar trees in the EHL this year, but no one tree, Mr. Clendenin Stewart. Imagine him interviewing with Lauren.
Right?
Yeah,
Remember?
but no tree is as tall as the I think it's the Express Peakhead 6'8" from
6'8"?
Alaska.
Yeah.
Massive.
What's in the water in Alaska?
Yeah, we got one of our own with Lucas Klein.
Yes. In goal, I didn't know what to do. I was like bouncing back and forth because, like, Jeff took Bosher, Lauren went with Mr. Reliable in Miller, and I'm going with Josh Kotai. Did I say that right, Lauren? I think I said that right. From the Lumberjacks. And it's a little bit risky because they have a 2-game series with the Spartans, who have had Vermont's number. But
Vermont has not won against the Spartans this season.
Yes. But when I look back to last year, that's what happened with those 2 teams last year. Like, they would never go back and forth. It was like 3 in a row for the Spartans, 2 in a row for the Lumberjacks, and it carried right over into the playoffs. So maybe this is the Lumberjacks weekend, and they're going to get both with the Spartans. And I say that because they're playing the games in Burlington. So I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good about that one. And then at my utility position, I was locked in on Walpole because of the stretch that they had. I think Jeff mentioned it earlier, and I picked Grund already. So I'm gonna kind of share the love a little bit and go to Justin Guelph, and that's my team. And overall, I will mention the standings, and I'm not getting ahead of myself because the last time I did that on at least 2, maybe 3 occasions, it turned on me very quickly. I am in first place with 131. Anthony's in second with 126.6. Lauren is in third with 118.6. And Jeff is in fourth with 109.4. So, but we have.
Thank you for saying fourth. I appreciate that.
Yeah. We have seen how fast fantasy does turn. Mm-hmm. And it's a week-to-week thing. And I was in fourth last week. And then Mobley decided that he was just going to power the Avalanche back into the power rankings. So that does it for our fantasy this week. As I mentioned, these are for the games from the 24th all the way to November 3rd. So a huge stretch coming up. But with that, let's get to the what to watch for.
Before we wrap things up, here's what to watch for this week in the E-Show.
What to watch for is presented by Hockey TV, the official streaming platform for your EHL and EHLP action through the 2021-2022 season.
So the what to watch for on Hockey TV are our 2 All-Star games. Unfortunately, we had to cancel the Fitchburg State game because of the COVID situation going on at their campus. But we are still playing Curry College and UMass Boston. Feels like forever ago when we played UMass Boston last, which was the last time we had an All-Star game. I know we shared the conversation. I think it was last podcast about the hit that Tim DeBoer took. Actually, I think we were off there by the time we had got to that part. But it's, the event this year, it is not what the event has been in the past, but we're still having it. Going back to, my first years in this league, we used to have what we called at the time the 95 non-commit game or the 96 non-commit game. And it just didn't attract the same buzz that, the first time we played UMass Boston did, which was in the 2017-18 season. And we lost 3-1 because Nolan Egbert and Mike Pagluka almost made 60 saves combined. And what the event has kind of turned into since then, because we've been able to be competitive and even win a game against Salem State 2 years ago. It's amazing. When Fitchburg had to unfortunately cancel, I had 5 schools that called and said, if we didn't have our 2 exhibitions already locked in, because colleges only are allowed to schedule 2 exhibition games, we would take you, keep us in mind for next year. Right. So, of course, there's a few owners that are like, well, next year's All-Star week, you can just pick like 75 guys and play 8 games in a row and just rotate the lineup. I was like, that sounds like a tiny bit of a headache. But it could be fun also. But yes, as I mentioned, we are playing Curry College on Friday. Anthony and Tyler are on the call for that one. We are playing UMass Boston on Saturday. It's just Anthony on the call for that one. I may have a headset on also because I may be turning the camera for you, Anthony.
Oh, nice. I like that. Get it, boys. Get it. That's awesome.
But it's like, I think I mentioned this in my quote for the story. It's such a fun event. Like the last time we had this, when we actually beat Salem State, those moments when like you just react and like you never even think about it. Like I don't know why I did this, but I ran down the locker room and just like jumped in the crowd with all the players. We went nuts for like 30 seconds. So I was like, awesome. it was something I'll never forget though, because it's such a special event, and it's not because of the victory. It's because of the response that we get from the college coaches that, circle it on the calendar and like want to be there. Like they start reaching out about it immediately. I've had guys ask me what the line combinations are for this week. I'm like, I don't know. Like, this is why we have a coaching staff.
So do you get input on that, Coach or Commissioner Rabbit?
I guess I'm like the GM. I pick the roster, then I take a step back.
I was talking to Bill Zanaboni during the showcase, and I congratulated him for being an assistant, third time in 5 years that he's been selected to the coaching staff. And he said just how fun these events are. He said it's always a fun event to work. And he also complimented the league because he said it's something that the league takes very seriously. Yeah. And based on what you just said, Neil, talking about this event going up against these Division III programs, you can tell just how seriously you and the rest of the league takes it. And I do think it's a tremendous opportunity, and I'm looking forward to working both of those games and being on the call for them.
And we are going to have a second All-Star event this year, which is the All-Star Classic, which takes place November 21st and 22nd. So for those that want to circle their calendar, it's funny. I had to explain to a lot of coaches the math for that event. Because it's actually clean and easy for that one, because there's 68 players going, which divided by 17 teams is 4 guys apiece will be at that one. I still have to figure out how we're going to have to draft that 4-team tournament, because maybe each of us picks a team. I know we have 4 different colored jerseys, so
show All-Star special.
Yeah, we could work it into fantasy somehow.
Ooh, I like this.
And I've showed you all the jerseys, right? We have the white, the blue, the red, and the gray. So
very fresh.
But I think we're gonna wear the blue and the red this weekend against Curry and UMass Boston. Again, I mentioned that this is just something that I look forward to every year. And for the kids that get involved, or get to play, it's just such an honor, because their chances of committing just increase like that. Like we've actually had 2 goalies in the history of this event. One being Nolan Egbert and another being Brendan Brawley, who played so well in the games that they committed to schools that we played against. Right. So we have these colleges that we're facing off against, and they're trying to beat us and get their teams ready. And at the same time, they're kind of recruiting from the bench. They're like, that kid keeps making all these saves. I want him here next year. Right. So it's pretty special. I hope we do see Lauren on Friday, because it is your birthday. And you did say to me that there's no better way to spend a birthday than in a hockey rink. So just saying, if you want to, I'm sure Anthony would say, come call a period with Tyler if you want to. Or they both step off and give you the whole floor to yourself.
Oh no, that would be horrible. That would be an absolute train wreck. Numbers and names, like that is not my thing. I can absolutely tell you stories all day long. I will gladly find all kinds of little tidbits to throw in about guys. Don't ask me to call names.
I should bring the wireless mic up and you just go in between the glass.
That could work too.
Oh.
See,
that's what I did.
Lauren,
for
you'd
soccer.
be good. Color commentary and ringside would be perfect for you then. I think that is something that you should think about. That'd be a cool birthday.
I did that for my boys over at UNH men's soccer. I've done that for them, and it was a fun time. It was freezing, couldn't feel my fingers and toes outside, but definitely a fun time getting to talk about them.
I will promise you.
You're gonna have to do it.
I will promise you pizza for your birthday or something like that.
Pizza.
I have to figure out the post-game meal still, but I promise you'll get some. Maybe, I could really embarrass you and make the team sing to you and get an ice cream cake, but I don't know if you'd want that.
Oh man, I'm sorry, I'm gonna miss.
They need to be on key. They gotta be on key.
I'm sorry, I'm not gonna be out there to celebrate with you guys.
The last 5 minutes of tomorrow's practice will be singing. So again, we play Curry College on Friday night at 6:50, UMass Boston on Saturday at 4:00. Both games will be on Hockey TV. I'll see Anthony there. Won't see Jeff there. Sorry. Maybe we'll see Lauren there. So I hope everyone enjoys those games, and we'll talk to you guys next week.
Thanks for listening to The E-Show. Learn more at easternhockeyleague.org and follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. Also, be sure to subscribe and get notified when next week's podcast is released.